Barbara, what do you see from that perspective?
Well, Lisa, I agree with you. Often is the case, especially with a contract that gets turned over, that it may have been a contract, maybe a patchwork quilt, as you mentioned, contract, addendum, and everything in between. So really getting your arms around what, in fact, the contract is and confirming that with the other side. Don't be embarrassed if you have to say, hey, is this what you're working with? Because this is what we're working with. And I think that's important. That's especially important, I think, as well with the transition and turnover and staffing that has happened over the last 2 years. So you're likely not working with the same folks on either side of the table. And so it really does make sense, as you mentioned, to get your arms around the contract, the contractual commitments. I think check your blind spots would be a recommendation. And what I mean by that would be check the things that aren't necessarily addressed in the contract, service, staffing levels, condition of the hotel and everything in between. And I'll say this probably many times during the session today, but site inspections are so critically important. Being on site, sort of kicking the tires for both parties to walk the space, to look at everything is really important. And I think that really goes a long way into troubleshooting any potential concerns. So if you used to just doing one site visit or inspection ahead of time, add to that and do more ahead of that time. I think it's important as well. Food and beverage pricing is a big issue, as is food availability in certain markets. So really, as you mentioned, Lisa, the BEOs, the banquet event orders, that becomes very important. So if you're not talking menus quickly or soon, you should. Pricing is super compressed on food, and even a 3-month out pricing can be difficult to get. So really trying to get your arms around menus and pricing. A lot of food service has changed as a result of COVID. And so figuring out how food service has changed, what your events might look like too relative to food service, that's an important part as well. But I do think just confirming what details you have in the contract. Also, don't be shy on the group side. Don't be shy if your agenda has changed. If you need to change your space or change your program or block, have the conversation. Again, as we've talked about a lot, having the conversation sooner than later with your counterpart really helps to open that. And of course, as we were mentioning, the fact that the market is bouncing back, especially in transient and leisure, helps to really make sure the hotel can maximize what is that perishable commodity, which is that one night at the hotel or 2 nights. So what can the group do to help that? And in turn, certainly expect that the hotel would help the group with that flexibility.
And I would just add, when we're talking about food pricing, that your grocery bill is going up, and hotels are facing the same thing. So I hear a lot of complaints about food pricing at hotels, but it's just a function of what's happening in the economy. The important thing about everything that I've said and everything that Barbara said is, after you have these conversations, you have to sit down and confirm in writing everything that you agreed upon. It's not enough to just talk about it. Yes, you need to talk about it, but once you've reached agreement, this is what we're going to do. To have that in writing confirmed and signed by both parties.